What's up? Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, and this is an In Case You Missed It episode with Rachel, who is such an amazing human that I wanted to make sure that you heard this episode in case you missed it. And you know what? When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, because I had my laptop brick on me this week. It's been shipped away to be fixed. So I'm like, what am I going to do for podcast? Let's replay some really great episodes in case you missed them. And this is such a good story. Rachel, again, is just such an amazing person. Definitely follow her, support her. And I wanted you to make sure that you heard her weight loss story. So saddle up. In case you haven't heard this episode yet, here's Rachel's weight loss story.
What happens at Grandma's stays at Grandma's is a model for you and your grandkids. If it's fun, it's fair game. But lately, hip pain has you grimacing more than laughing. And that's the moment you realize life's too short to put off treatment any longer.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with hundreds of joint replacements each year. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better. The Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started. What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine. My guest today, Rachel DesRochers. Did I say it right?
You got it.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Oh, yeah. Returning guest. It's been a long time since you've been on before, though.
It has been a long time.
That was maybe early 2018, somewhere.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
That's been like 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was after I just randomly, I didn't know you at all, and I came to your house for a women's circle.
That's right. Oh, that was so good.
And I was so scared, and I sat out at the street in front of your house. I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? Well, I followed Grateful Grams on Instagram, and then Grateful Grams did a post. They're like, this is our fearless leader. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll follow her too. And then the first thing that popped up in the feed was that you were doing this women's circle about like how you feel with your relationship with food. And I was like, oh my God, well, that's my jam. And I just wrote like a simple comment or something like, oh, like I'd love more details on this. And then you're like, you messaged me like, here's my address, come to my house. And I was like, oh, whoa.
Action. Let's do it. No talking about it. Show up.
I know. And that's why I was like, okay. I'm like, well, and I'm just like so naturally introverted where I'm like, well, I'm like, this is totally my jam. This is what I want to talk about. Just go. Like, you totally want to, I'm 1,000% happy I did. It's one of those things where, like, foot on your own ass.
Show up, right? Like, yeah. I always find that when I show up, no matter how hard it is for me to do that sometimes, there's something good happens. Every single time something good happens. Yeah, whether it's a person or, yeah.
Like, I generally feel like just in life, if it makes me feel like I'm going to barf, then I should do it.
Yeah, that's a good, I think that's such a good rule of thumb. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, fear is a great motivator.
Yeah.
If we use it to propel us forward, which, hello.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Don't let it consume you.
Well, and not only do you do these kick-ass women's circles, I mean, you have like a million different jobs. So I'm going to let you run through the roster here of everything that you do.
Yeah. So I'm learning to slow down, believe it or not. Our umbrella that we call ourselves is the Gratitude Collective. And underneath the Gratitude Collective is Grateful Grams, which I started in 2010. We will be 10 years old in April. And I can't even believe that. We're a handmade artisanal graham cracker company. We can ship them all over the country. We focus on wholesale here locally in Cincinnati. But if you live in California, I'll happily mail you a box. And then from that and our growth of Grateful Grams, we were doing 6 farmers markets a week and meeting all of these local makers in town and realized that nobody had a home. And so the idea of creating a community driven shared use commercial kitchen space was kind of created, and I launched that in 2013. So it's a nonprofit. We're called the Incubator Kitchen Collective, and it literally is a shared use commercial kitchen space for food entrepreneurs. We have about 10,000 square feet over in Newport, Kentucky. We've served over 110 companies. We have about 40 that are current with us right now. from everything from food trucks to meal preps to kombucha to sauerkraut, you name it, they are making it there. And I am in awe of every single person because they're doing exactly what you and I just talked about, which is showing up to work on their dreams. In 2013, I also started a little music festival called the Good People Festival. It's a one-day event in July. We do it in the middle of summer when it's so hot outside. But that was created because as entrepreneurs, we work really hard, but we don't take time to celebrate or to even witness the wins. And so I wanted to create a one-day event where we could all just get together and have a really good, relaxed time. We have about 25 artists and vendors that's set up. We have 7 bands that come and play. It's free. It's open to the public. You can find that on Facebook at the Good People Festival. I've dabbled in podcasting. We have a podcast that lives out there in the universe called Kitchen Convos. We did 52 episodes and it was lovely. And I shared the stories of food entrepreneurs. In 2019, we shifted direction and created Ingratitude, a podcast sharing stories of how people live a life in gratitude. And I've put out around 20, and then winter in a bakery happens and fun projects that you do on the side slow down. So I haven't put one out in a while, and I'm okay with that right now. Life's full, so I'm just going for the ride. I've done women's circles for a really, really long time, and one of the cool things that I'm seeing right now is this shift in my leadership in our community where I don't have to organize it. But I can come and show up and help you. So we spoke, Kyla Woods and I did, we do a little live thing called Purpose Work on our Facebook channels where we just kind of go live and talk about purpose and like how you discover your purpose. And through that, we've also spoke with, we did an event with Wise Wellness Guild, and we're doing a 3-part women's series for the Cincinnati Learning Collaborative. So that's one I got to connect you with too. You'll love Kate. She's doing some really incredible stuff. So yeah, I'm just out there. I know how to show up. I feel like it's a blessing to be alive. And so I want to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, well, you're definitely doing that. And what's cool is like so many people that are at Incubator Kitchen have been on this podcast.
So I appreciate you supporting these guys. They are the coolest people.
Yeah, I mean, just the ones off the top of my head is Tiffany from Healing Kitchen, Mike from Midwest Meal Plans.
You had Christy from Whirlybird. She incubated out of us.
Yeah, so that was a long time ago. She was on too, but Whirlybird's great. I just think that, you know, there's people there making, was it Rose and Mary Bakery?
Oh, I love Jason.
Oh my God, his food on Instagram is not healthy at all, but it looks amazing. But just how many people are, you know, just for me being in the health and wellness space of like these people making homemade, really like healthy options, because, you know, you can't hit a drive-through and do that. You need to have a place to cultivate these people that are, you know, doing these things locally. So I think
it goes back cool. Like we were built from entrepreneurs. Like we were built to support your local makers, right? Yeah. Like change happens on a local level. So like you want to make a difference in your community, support local. Yeah. Like it's so important.
Or it's even local, just small business in general of just, which is, you know, why I've partnered with so many local small businesses because, I mean, especially now that I'm, you know, jumping into some entrepreneurial waters. I mean, I've always had so much respect for people that are entrepreneurs and running their own business. But like once you start really getting into the dirt yourself, you're like, oh my God, these people are freaking magic makers.
It's surreal. I had a big wake up call even just this year of like you lose sight of the pride, right? Because I don't come from that like, look at what I've built. Like, and people put that, right? Like it's custom for people to just like, look at everything. Like, oh my, you know, and I'm like, no, it's all groovy. Like it all works together. Yeah. And like it's this weird machine that kind of runs and we're supported, but like, I want, at the end of the day, if I broke it down, like I want people to have gratitude in their life, and I want to create space for us to come together and connect. That isn't on a virtual level. Yeah. We need to touch people. Mm-hmm. We need to look in somebody's eyes and like have deep connection to move the stuff that's stuck in our bodies on emotional levels, right? Like it's all spirit work for me, as not in like a woo-woo way, but like Rachel is deeply grounded in that. And it's really important for me, if I'm going to stay true to who I am, to be okay with being like, no, we can do it. We can come together and we can do it differently.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thanks for having me. I love being here with you.
I know. I love like it's just like you just like brighten a room whenever you're in it. It's just like awesome being around you.
Thanks.
And I'm so excited to hear about your weight loss journey.
Phew.
Yeah. It's like that, huh?
I reached out to Amanda and I said, I think I'm ready to tell this. And so thank you for having me on to share this part of my life that I do and have talked about it on social media, and I have put obviously I've written some stuff, but it's one of these weird things that when you're writing it, there's a hard vulnerability, and so talking to someone who also has gone through it kind of takes some pressure off, even though it's a very vulnerable story to tell.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think, why so many people just don't talk about it. It's just like there's walls up where you feel like you can't even talk to your partner or your best friends, where it's like when some of these places are really dark.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not going to go there because I'm going to be judged. Whenever you do kind of let it out, you're like, everybody, oh, me too.
Yeah.
You know?
Always. Isn't that amazing? Once we say it out loud, other people are like, oh, thank God I'm not alone.
Yeah, well, that's for me. I never publicly talked about my binge eating until I started this podcast.
Yeah.
And then that's just, again, like just so many people reach out like, oh my God, I've done the same things and I didn't know that's what it was. I'm like, I didn't know that's what it was either. Yeah. I just thought like I was this piece of trash that like couldn't get it together. You know what I mean?
Something was wrong with you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
only you.
Oh yeah.
Everybody else, we all have it together.
Yeah, and it's like you're just like under this shame blanket that you think you're under there alone. Of like, nah, dude, people are going through some stuff.
We all have our own burdens, and once you get out of your own way and you recognize that at the end of the day, we're all just humans next to each other trying to do the best and like trying to live happy, you see people in a whole different light, don't you?
Mm-hmm, yeah, totally.
So
where you want to start?
Yeah. You know, I was always the big girl, and I don't mean that in like, I was never the skinny person.
Yeah.
So like that was part of my identity that I never wanted that. Like I was always happy to be me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember going into high school I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and I walked into like freshman orientation with like my bell-bottom jeans and my Lilith Fair concert t-shirt and like a shaved head that was bleached blonde, and just like my Birkenstocks, like, hey, Rach is here. What's up, everybody? You know, like, and so I think, so I say that, right, to get to where I am today. Where do I even, my wake up call? Let's start with my wake up call, I guess. I have 3 kids, 8, 10, and 18. And when my middle kid, I'm not starting with my wake up call. When my middle kid was 5.5 months old, I started my first business. And so essentially since April 2010, Rachel has created and gone and done and pushed and never was afraid to keep going, but I never really stopped. I had another kid within 18 months. My 2 littles are 18 months apart. I was growing businesses. And through growing businesses, you're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
You're tired. You're exhausted. You see the light, so you keep running towards it. And in 2018, I went down. I went down really hard. I ended up having emergency surgery, and I think it was October. We had just helped the city of Fairborn and Dayton open 2 commercial kitchens. I had worked on that project for about 6 months. I was driving back and forth and also running everything here. And you guys, my team is my husband and I. So let me just clarify, like when I'm not home, right, or not in, it's between the two of us. And somehow we made it work and it was awesome. And I think there was just years that I turned to food for my comfort. I turned to food. I turned to alcohol. Not in a, I was drinking every day. I wasn't. But if I opened the bottle of wine, I drank the whole bottle and then I ate the bag of Swedish fish.
Yeah.
Right? Like Swedish fish was my go-to. I don't know why that took everything away. Like those little red things just were like the one big bag of comfort for me. When we were in Dayton, we did our grand opening event, and then they had a big street festival. And I was up there. My parents came. Jim was working, and so my parents kind of helped take the kids. And then like we had hotel rooms. We stayed overnight, and I had a room with my kids. And then my parents were next door. And I remember at the street festival, like getting a funnel cake because hello, that was like my jam. Like, yeah. I'm like, funnel cakes are like heaven, right? Like I could totally eat a donut like anytime. And I woke up, and I've never said this out loud, probably to like my core group of women, but I woke up in the middle of the night in the bathroom, so sick.
Just like throwing up?
It was so bad. And I remember going, I'm killing myself. And my kids are asleep right here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. I'm doing really cool stuff. And like, how do I take control of my life again? How do I slow down and stop running? Which is so hard, right? And that night I was like, tomorrow I'm doing it different. And it was that, like, as clear, and I haven't looked back. What happened after that is I ended up in the hospital. I shifted my diet immediately.
What happened at the hospital? What did they say was going on?
Well, I had a gallbladder that was not happy.
Is that from diet?
It was from diet.
Okay.
It also, for us, it's hereditary. My aunt, my dad, and my grandmother have all had their gallbladders removed. My dad's like, dude, it's so easy. You'll be back to work the next day. Like, he goes, I was back in and out. Like, it was no big deal. It took me out for a month because my body was so infected. The surgeon didn't even want to have surgery on me because I had such infection. And what sucks is that I was so busy staying busy, I couldn't even feel that in my own body.
Yeah.
Like, talking about right? Like,
yeah, I can totally understand that.
Just major disconnect because I was so focused on going and not being.
Mm-hmm. And it's just the funnel cake that sent you over the edge.
It was like, thank God I ate the funnel cake.
Yeah.
Like right at the end of the day, the funnel cake saved my life.
Yeah.
Right? All hail the funnel cakes. And so I had surgery. It took me out for about a month. I was in the hospital for almost a week. They were just trying to get the infection in order, and then they finally took my gallbladder out. And then it took me 3 days after the surgery to be well enough to go home. And I committed to finding myself again. And as an entrepreneur with kids and multiple businesses, I had to really reevaluate the way that I was doing things. And I had to really reevaluate the pressure I put on myself of performing. That ego voice of, if you don't show up to this, they're going to forget about you.
Yeah.
Or if you don't donate to this event, then you suck, right? Like, just all the things that we tell ourselves that none of it's true. You guys, so in 2019, Rachel stepped back. I took time, Amanda. I shifted everything I was focusing on and figured out how to bring it back into my body, back home. I did it with the businesses. Like, what are the points of what's killing me in each of the businesses that I need help on?
Yeah.
And how do I just work less without the worry of it all falling apart.
How hard was that to do?
Yep.
I mean, you made it. You're still here.
I'm still here. And I think that's part of this story, right? Is to remind women, I say women, I love you guys too. But we have deep-rooted FOMO.
Oh, for sure.
That is so incorrect. And me stepping back has propelled me forward in such a clear, healthy way that I encourage you all who think that if you stop for a moment, if you rest for a moment, it's all going to crumble. I have found that in those moments of rest is when the puzzle or the path comes clear for me and like where to go next. I think I've lost over 90 pounds.
Wow. Dude, have you not been weighing yourself?
I know compulsively. I try not to be compulsive about it because it's one of those like, God, it strangles you, right?
Yeah.
Like that number.
It can make or break your day, and it can be awful.
Yes. And like, and I feel good, right? Like I'm happy. I hate exercise. It's really hard for me. My parents are amazing exercisers, and I was taught from an early age the importance of it, and it just never clicked with me. So I knew that for me to get back into my body, and I keep saying that over and over because I think that that's such an amazing, important connection that is lost very easily, especially as women, because we don't want to go there. I've done everything through food.
Yeah.
And what I've done in the last year is actually create a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah. I mean, which is so important. But like, again, like, how do you do that though? Like, could you even lay out some of the steps that you did?
Yeah. And so what I did is I said, I'm going to start here. So I started with keto.
Okay.
I went hardcore keto. I think I was doing under 12 net carbs a day. Because if Rachel's going to do it, she's going to do it all the way and not messing around. And what my mantra or movement through that is listen to your body.
Mm-hmm.
How do the foods make you feel?
Yeah, for sure.
First off, before we can even get there, how do you want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to feel alive and joy? Do you want to feel heavy? Do you want to feel light? Do you want to feel grateful? Like, I think it's really important, right? Those emotions and how we feel, let's talk about that stuff. Like, it's really important to feel those ways.
Well, I 1000% agree, but I think that sometimes you don't even know what some of those feelings really feel like until you make a change. And then you're like, oh, that's what this feels like.
Because that's one of the pieces my confidence that I didn't even know was missing because I showed up. I was me. I was happy. I was loud. I'd hug you. I have no problem being the center of attention or any of that stuff. So, but it was masked.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's one of the big pieces that I think I've uncovered is like, I really feel confident again.
Yeah, which is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you just brought up such a good point of like things that I didn't know were missing.
Yeah.
Because you just like live in this one certain way. Like, you know, before I started any sort of weight loss journey or just even yo-yo dieting, like I didn't know what it felt to just feel like, just feel light and feel comfortable in my body.
Yep.
And that's where, you know, my mind shift changed from yo-yo dieting forever of just like, I just want to feel comfortable in my body. I want to feel happy. I want to feel healthy. And I knew I didn't feel like that before. And it's, what do I have to do to, just focus on instead of being like, oh, well, you got to be this size and you need to be skinny. Cause you know, I was the same way. I was never a small person.
Yep.
Of just switching it from that of like, you know, I just want to be able to do the things that I want to do and physically be able to do them and then feel good while I'm doing them and not be so in my own damn head that I've like, oh, I'm so worried that somebody's like, what's the fat chick trying to do that for?
Right. Or like, we do so many food events, right? Like just being able to like go to those and still enjoy myself and not feel like I have to eat the whole place, or come home from the long day of work and say, I mean, right? Like there's so much mental here.
Yeah.
Of like, started keto and I lost 25 pounds and it helped kickstart me. Mm-hmm. But once I really got into a groove, I realized that I wasn't I felt good because I had lost weight. Yeah. I wasn't feeling good energetically because I was eating foods that I don't love. Like, I'm not a meat eater. I've been on and off vegetarian since I was in 7th grade or even before. And so the spring came and I kind of went back to that. Like, okay, I've been doing this. I feel good. I jump started. What else is next? Mm-hmm. And to kind of going back to taking inventory. I love to cook, so it's important for me too that, unlike you, I could not eat the same thing every day. I am in all of that. I love food, hence I'm in the food industry. I love to eat. I love the experience that food brings. My husband, he could put it all in a blender and be satisfied.
That's how my husband is too.
Right? Like he has I want to eat this meal. I want it to be like, to me, it's sacred work, food. Like it's not sustenance. It's like, it is emotion and it is beautiful and it is powerful and like it's from the earth, right? Like it's just so important for me. And so I ended up transitioning to a plant-based diet, which took work. It took me really, again, going back and taking inventory, writing down what I'm eating and how I feel afterwards or how I feel before it. And I feel great. I feel happy. Like I feel like my insides are starting to reflect what I show on the outside. Yeah. You know? And I know that's not for everybody. I looked also, what was really important for me, Amanda, is to look at my family. Meaning that my dad has had prostate cancer and my aunt has had cancer and my mom and her entire family they've had heart issues. My mom has some early onset dementia going on. And so I also took all of that in and started reading to find out what's the best ways to eat that I don't have to go through that, right? Some of it is genetics, but the more and more science that comes out of it, 90% of it is our food that we intake right now.
Yeah, food is medicine.
Food is medicine. Mm-hmm. And so that was really, really, really important for me as I went on this journey, is to make sure that I was thinking bigger picture and not just Rachel's weight loss. Yeah. This wasn't Rachel's weight loss. This was how do I live? Mm-hmm. How do I become alive again? How can I be the mom who can go to soccer practice in the evenings with my kids? Because I was to the point where I would come home from work, make dinner, and then pretty much just crash out. I was done. I mean, that was a lot I was carrying. I was done pushing. I couldn't carry it all the time, meaning my own weight. And so it's been a really incredible, amazing journey. I had to retrain myself, my go-tos, right? When I'm stressed, what do I do now?
Not Swedish fish.
Not Swedish fish. And I will tell you very honestly, my husband brought me Swedish fish for Valentine's, and it was like the sweetest token of love, and it triggered such a deep anxiety panic.
Oh no.
And I literally, I started crying. You guys, I'm a mess. I just want you all to know, I'm a good mess, but I'm real. I'm a human. And I said, you have to get them out. Yeah. I can't have them in the house. Mm-hmm. And this is 18 months later, where I haven't had a Swedish fish in 18 months, you guys.
Yeah, but that's where it's so much more than like if you look at like diet culture and stuff like that, calories in, calories out. Like
I tracked those in the beginning. Do you track? You're a tracker, like you.
I go in flows.
Yes.
Like what I've been doing the past couple of weeks with Tiffany from Healing Kitchen is just doing this elimination diet because I feel like, well, plus I've been going through this crazy transition and through stress and I just felt like garbage. I just felt like it's not like my eating is way out of control, but I knew that I was leaning on things that I haven't leaned on in a while. And I just felt gross emotionally, physically, mentally, everything. And it's been a really good like recharge, reset to kind of just eat cleaner and just have that to focus on. And so during this, which is essentially like a really clean paleo, is I'm not weighing or measuring anything. I'm like, that's not what this is about. This isn't a weight loss thing.
Right.
This is about me seeing, if I do eat some gluten or some dairy, does it make me feel like crap? Because through this whole process of me being stressed out, I'm eating a lot of cheese.
No, isn't that like, right? Like I cut out sugar, and I just did like honey maple syrup and dates were like my go-to if I needed something sweet.
Yeah.
And the start of 2020 has been very full, and I slip right back in. I'm like, just that one piece of chocolate's not going to hurt. Like at least it's dark chocolate and not an ice cream sundae, right? Which again, I want to reinforce, I'm good with that. I think it's really important that we find things that are healthier options and still feel satisfied. I don't want to live a life where I feel unsatisfied or my parameters or my diet culture is so strict that I'm living someone else's identity, right? Like, I don't want that. That's not the point of being on this planet. Yeah. And that's also, to me, again, it's just... it all comes down to relationship with food in your body because it comes down to exercise too. But it's just like, I have so many trigger foods too, kind of like your Swedish fish. That's not saying that you're never going to have it again, but just knowing yourself right now, like I'm not in a space where I'm cool to have that because it puts you in a bad place mentally. And that's where I think its difference is. It's not, it's a bad food and you should never have it and it'll make you gain weight. It's when you have an emotional attachment to something like that and it's going to flood some stuff for you. Like the alcoholic, right? Like one beer is too many and 100's not enough. Yeah. Right? Like it's the same thing. And we don't talk about that part of it, right? Like I want people to eat what's right for them. I'm good being plant-based right now. If I want a slice of bread, I probably would be okay having it. And I've also been really gentle on myself. I love Thai food. Like I love it. It's one of my favorite foods to eat. I'm sure it's not 100% gluten-free, which I try to stick to because I noticed that not that I have any type of gluten. What I was using it was an easy filler. Yeah. Right? Like it was a crutch. And so when I kind of reevaluated in the spring to say, okay, I just want to eat plant-based foods right now. I need some time to just clean out everything, literally and figuratively. And so I'm not going to have gluten or alcohol or refined sugars. And now if I want to go to the restaurant and I want to order a pad thai, I want to do that. And I want to do it without shame. Yeah. And I want to do it without guilt. I want to do it because I'm comfortable in my body again. Yeah, that's so important. And I still struggle. Yeah, I don't know if the struggle ever goes away. Because I don't know for you, but like people will say, wow, you look so good. But I still quite often look in the mirror and I see old Rachel until I see a picture of myself from 2 years ago. And I can't believe I was that person. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I feel like isn't talked about a lot too, of, just whatever small level, or I don't know, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist about like body dysmorphia of when you're going through weight loss where like I've lost over 100 pounds. It's been 8 years for me now. And I'll still like go on a plane and be like, I can't fit down this aisle. Yeah. It's just like or some days I'll still try on the plus size clothes when really the top I should buy is a large. Like I can't believe that I could buy a size large and not a 2X. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like going into Nordstrom Rack and being able to buy a pair of jeans off the regular rack, I think I had to try on 3 sizes too big because I just didn't believe that I could be that size.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's just all of those parts about it that you don't expect to come along for the ride.
My wedding band hasn't fit for probably 10 years. Literally.
And you got it on now.
And I have it on now. And I think back to that body that got married 13 years ago, or almost whenever. I think it's almost 13 years. We love each other enough to not know when we really got married. Like, Facebook reminds us when our anniversary's coming. We're those people. But I think about that young lady and how different that body was, though. Mm-hmm. That body has since birthed 2 more children.
Yeah. That
body has built businesses. That body, right? Like, these things. And so things have fallen in different places than they were 13 years ago. And so what is this body, and how do I continue to make it healthy?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that too, and not only that, of just even not trying to fall back in things that quote unquote worked before. I feel like that's a space that I'm growing into right now of like, really, like, you got to let that go. That was a different time. That's a different version of me. Like, just because something worked 2 years ago doesn't mean that that's what's right for you now.
Well, and I think that's so important, right? Is that we can change it. I started out with one lifestyle of eating, and I knew that in order for me to thrive, I had to change that style, how I was eating.
Yeah.
Even in this, I hate the word diet, right? But like, in these lifestyle choices that I was making, I had to continue, and I still have to continue, right? Now I'm at a point where I'm like, I feel really good where I'm at. I've cracked one of my biggest goals that I had, and I still probably would like to lose another 20, maybe 25 pounds. If my scale's accurate. Mm-hmm. But I feel no pressure to force it. I feel that I finally am at a space where I can dive deeper into Rachel's feelings, right? Because again, it's mental, it's spiritual for me. Like, this is spiritual work. It's being the healthiest, most alive version of myself to get the most out of the life I was given.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, you guys, we're on this planet right now. It's 2020. Like, don't you want to live?
Yeah. I mean, that's the point.
Like,
that's such a good way to think about it. Like, that you're traveling on this planet right now. Like, don't you want to be in the best vehicle possible? Of just like feel good and crush it?
And like, to know that it is possible to feel joy every day. Mm-hmm. That it is possible for you to not feel like you have to settle. That is, and it does not matter what size you are. It does not matter what size you are. What matters is that you're alive. What matters is that you are confident being here with us. It matters. You matter, right? It goes back to, I tell my kids all the time, you are enough. You're smart enough. You're brave enough. You do enough. You have enough. You are enough. Because from our enoughness, we can live, right? From our enoughness, we don't have to settle for anything. You're choosing misery. I chose misery for a long time because I didn't think I had it in me to do it a different way.
Well, and it becomes comfortable. And then it's scary to leave that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And it takes work, right? Like, I had to slow down at my career, and not really, because at the end of the day, I feel like by slowing down, I'm further ahead than I would have been if I would have kept running.
Yeah.
Again, let's repeat that. By slowing down, I am further ahead because of that. I think that's so important for us as in any type. We're all leaders. If you're here, you are a leader in some way, whether it's at your home or at your job. And so I want to make sure that I'm living as authentically as possible. And I'm telling you guys, because naturally we put anybody on pedestals that are different than us, right? Mm-hmm. No, we're just like each other.
Yeah, just some more people are more honest about it.
Yeah, right? And like, to even share this, like, this is a weird story to share in a public way.
No, it's an amazing story.
But
it's an important story.
It is an important, and I want to go back to that fact that, like, I was good with how I chose it for as long as I did. I'm really grateful that I woke up in the middle of the night and realized that I could choose something differently. Mm-hmm. You have the power to choose something differently.
Yeah. I mean, that could just be any meme that's like, you can just make the decision right this minute.
And whatever it is, whether it's weight, whether it's work, whether it's bad relationship, whether it's the way you are raising your children, make sure you're choosing joy in all of that. Mm-hmm. Because if you're just doing it and you're going through the motions, there's more to it. I want to uncover that part with you, right? Like, that's like what I love. I want to watch people come alive and realize just what a gift it is to be here and to like be together with other people and to like hug somebody and to feel loved and to be able to give love back. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. Yeah.
That's why you have a gratitude company.
That's why I have a gratitude company. And I think that's it, right? I think I could not have done any of it if I didn't have a gratitude practice, if I didn't have this thing that I could lean on to go into when it was really hard and I did want the glass of wine or I did want the ice cream. I made mango sorbet in my Vitamix the other night, and it was so satisfying, and it was whole foods, and it was no sugar. Like, I've learned now, and one of the rubrics that's worked for me, Amanda, is that like you and your planning out your meals is that I've just come up with a really simple system. Like, I have 2 go-tos for breakfast. Right now I either pick oatmeal or a smoothie. Lunch, I pick a salad or leftovers from dinner. And then dinner, like majority of the times we do just roasted veggies. My husband will eat anything. Yeah.
That makes it easy.
It makes it so easy. My daughter's a vegetarian. And then I have my son, who's the youngest. My oldest doesn't. He's at college and he lives on campus. But Ellis eats nothing, right? He's the kid, like, he loves frozen pizza and chicken tenders. And so when it's your 3rd or 4th or 5th kid, it's kind of, I'm like, it's survival of the fittest, kid. Like, cool, this is what I'm making. If you don't want to eat it, go figure out what else there is to eat that you'll have. And so we do a lot of just easy, simple vegetables at dinner. My husband gets his fill of pastries and meat from our members at the kitchen for breakfast and lunch. So like, he's so satisfied, and keeping it really simple. Yeah. Not thinking I have to make this crazy thing. I try to keep a pot of soup in the fridge. Like, there's little tricks that I've learned over the last 18 months that I've always known. And if you hate cooking, great. There's great solutions out there now to help ease all of that, even to stay on budget, right? But I think it's really important to like come up with that system for yourself, because for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you, like, if you have to think about it, then you make the crappy decision.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why that's why it's so important for everybody to find the method that works for them. Yeah. And meal prep is just what's happened to work for me, because it takes the thinking out of it.
It takes the thinking. I've never meal planned because I'm like, oh, it just like takes so much work. And like, I've been trying to be more intentional about meal planning. And I called my girlfriend Stephanie, who's an avid meal planner. And I was like, this is why you do it. Dinners have been so easy because I just know what it is.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, duh, you know? Yeah. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, I think it's just it's just a testament, right? Of like, it's okay to experiment to find the right combo for yourself.
Yeah. And just knowing that you're going to mess it up sometimes and you're going to fail and you're going to do things that suck. And it doesn't be like, that just doesn't work for me. Not like, oh, well.
And sometimes you eat the whole bowl of popcorn and you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's it, is like one of the biggest shifts that I've noticed is that, and not that I've slipped or I've fallen or any of these, like whatever it is, the day that I choose to do something different, I'm okay with it because I chose that from a clear space, not from stress, not from anxiety. And when you choose it from clarity, you don't have the shame or guilt.
Yeah. Or that you're doing it for someone else.
Exactly. The hardest, most stressful part is that I don't have any clothes that fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like everyone should be like, the women are like, it's so like, and in my head, I'm like, this is so awesome. Like I get a new wardrobe. Do you know how hard and stressful it is to like flip your whole, like literally everything, right?
Dude,
like
Goodwill, St. Vincent de Paul.
You got to. I like squirreled away some money and I went and got like a couple really nice pair of jeans and some new work blouses. But like rebuilding your whole wardrobe has been the hardest part for me because it's not like I just can take $5,000 out and like go blow it and like flip everything. You know, like I've done it seasonally. Like we've gotten through winter and now I'm like, okay, I know for spring I'm going to need some different stuff because what I wore last spring isn't going to fit me. And it should be really fun and exciting, but it's been really stressful.
Dude, that's why Goodwill. That's what I did. Is just because, I mean, especially when
because you're going to keep losing it, right?
Yeah,
like you don't want,
Yeah. And so for that of just like, and then I was wearing a lot of dresses too, because those would, unlike pants, like you could maximize some time out of a dress.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I never wore dresses. I mean, I wore dudes' clothes for a long time. And so from transitioning from there into getting into dresses, and then, I mean, my whole entire wardrobe, which a lot of my wardrobe is still now like thrift store stuff, like thrift store and Target.
I love. Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well, I got this for like $5. I don't feel bad that I'm going to redonate it in 3-4 more months and just get something new. And that was just way easier for me to kind of rotate clothes.
And who are you now? Right? Like,
it's totally like I wasn't a dress person. And somehow I became like where, like when I first moved to Cincinnati, I was still wearing dresses all the time. And then whenever I start wearing pants, they're like, "Whoa, that's weird." Yeah. So it's even weird to think now, like 5 years later.
Like I wear yoga pants in public now, right? And I'm like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's like, you learn like these, they're like, oh, I didn't know that I would like this for myself, but I do. And it's just, that's, I think, what's so cool about the process. Is not just about like the number on the scale or all this stuff. It's just like discovering these parts of yourself that you're like, I didn't know this was in here.
I think that's so important, right?
Totally. Well, I'm just the confidence that I've gone through. I mean, just specifically in the last few months of like how just really standing up for myself and having a strong idea what I want to do for myself. And like, oh my God, and making some really scary decisions of like, old me would have never done that. Yeah. Never in a million years. And it wasn't just about the weight. It was about just who I thought I was as a person, that I couldn't do that.
And I think it's so important. Again, it doesn't matter what size you are. What matters is that you are happy and that you feel confident and you feel like you're living your life to the fullest. Yeah. Because nothing should slow us down.
Yeah. And I actually just had this conversation in a previous podcast, but this is when I first started losing weight, and I was living in Denver, and a friend, there was at like a dinner party, and they're like, we don't understand why you like need to lose weight. Like, shouldn't you be body positive? Shouldn't you love the body that you're in? I'm like, I would agree. And that would be fantastic if I felt that way.
Yeah. That, can we repeat that again? Again, right? Cause like, I probably will always consider myself a plus size woman. Cause what does that even mean? Right? Like I'm allowed to take up space, right?
For sure.
And I have friends, and what I really, and I think, you were talking about like the women's circle, and like one of the most powerful things that came from that gathering was when you put together things for women and that talk about like food and all of this, like the diet or whatever, as a heavier set woman, I was like, oh, it's just going to be all these heavy set women. But there was such an array of bodies, from very thin yoga instructors to very plus size women that were around the table that day that you came.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most eye-opening things for me, Amanda, was that circle, because it really put it back into perspective that none of us have good relationships with food because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Does not matter what size you are.
Yeah, it's not that you're not body positive because you are a certain size. It's just you don't feel good in your own body.
My extremely skinny, tiny friends, I watched and have witnessed such horrible relationships with food.
Yeah.
They're just the difference where they're running from it, where we run to it.
Yeah.
Right? And what we have to do is talk about why that is. That relationship is deeply rooted into how we and what we were taught as children. And I grew up in a house where my mom made everything from scratch. Like, food was part of our life. My parents are avid exercisers. So I always was taught good stuff. It's that I chose to turn to that for comfort at some point in my life over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm grateful I chose that instead of one of 1,000 other things that people choose, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just really important that we talk about the fact that it does not matter what size you are. What matters is your relationship with these things that you're putting in and on your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, so important.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's so important also to have this conversation with young girls and young women, because you get, like, if I was able to speak about this or had somebody that could help me verbalize it when I was 12, like, oh my God, I think it just would have cracked my world open, where I'm like, oh, like, I just, instead of just bulldozing this life that I was in and not feeling my body or my feelings at all. And just, and that's an important message that I don't think is getting to people that age. It certainly didn't get to me. And I mean, I know it was the 90s, but
no, I was teased in grade school. I was the fat girl. I was right. Like, they were mean, and that was a huge part. It's funny. Rosalie is 10 years old, and just 2 days ago, somebody said something that hurt her feelings, and we were able to sit at the dinner table. One of the most transformative, and if you've heard any parts of my stories over the years, I go back to this, is when those kids were being really mean to me, my father looked at me and he said, "You have to love yourself.
Yeah.
You are enough. And you have to love you. You are a gift. Those girls that are being mean to you are just trying to put their shit on your shoulders. You don't have to carry it."
Yeah. Man, that's some good advice.
In 6th grade, when I should not be, right? Like, that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
And so to be able to take that and remind my daughter of the same exact thing, that's how we make change, right? Is we have these conversations with kids to remind them that they're enough. They're beautiful enough. And I talk very openly. My kids now, they're like, "Can you eat this, Mom?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can eat it. I choose right now not to because it doesn't feel good when I do, but I can totally have it."
Yeah.
Because I don't want to also teach shame and diet culture. Like, when it's Halloween, if my kids want ice cream, I'm like, yeah, go have it. Because we've been taught so much about restriction.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What I say to my guys, I'm like, you can have that. You also just had this. And so you have to decide how you want to feel. And my kids have totally binged out. And then they go, "Mom, my stomach hurts so bad." And I'm like, so those are consequences.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's really important that we're teaching you guys. We are a culture driven on choice and consequence, right? Like, how are we not teaching our children that?
Yeah.
How do we, right? Like, how have conversations with your people, with your family unit. Like, talk about feelings, talk about food, talk about the relationship, talk about how things make you feel in your body when you eat it. Like, that is so important, because what I want is I want her at 10 to be able to understand those choices and not have to be in your mid-30s puking with your children sleeping across the hallway while you're struggling to figure out how you get your life back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super important. Oh, man. God, this is so heavy.
No big deal, y'all. Come on.
Let's throw some fart jokes in here.